Hi everyone, my name's Dahlia. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a review on Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. This is the first book to her Grisha trilogy, and it's not exactly a new book. I'm just getting on the bandwagon of reading this. Her newer books that are set in the same world of this are the famous and very popular Six of Crows duology, but I'm not there yet. Reading this one, and I'm going to tell you what I think about it. So Shadow and Bone is set in a world called Ravka, and it's pretty much based off Russia. And Ravka is bordered by two countries, and they're all pretty much at war with one another. Our main character, Alina Starkov, is a member of the First Army, and she works as a map maker in this army. And when she was a child, she was orphaned by these border wars. Okay, so in this world, there are these elite group of people. They're known as the Grisha, and they basically have powers. And there are three orders of Grisha. Like there's three types, or main types, because there's also like subcategories of Grisha. I'm not going to try to pronounce the names of these like categories because I don't want to butcher them, but basically there's the Order of the Living and the Dead, the Order of Summoners, and then the Order of Fabricators, and then there's also just sub-orders within these orders, and they all have different abilities. Yeah, so pretty straightforward if I put it that way. And Alina pretty much has a normal life in the First Army. She's again a map maker. She's a pretty like ordinary girl, as ordinary as you can be in a world like this that is ravaged by war. Until one day her army regiment, which also includes her best friend Mal, who is a tracker in this army, they go into the fold, which is basically this big, great abyss of darkness that is crawling with monsters. And their regiment is attacked, and all hell breaks loose. Alina finds out that she has powers that have been dormant pretty much her entire life. She didn't know she had. Pretty much, obviously, her life changes forever. Pretty typical plot line for YA. And yeah, so I rated this book a 3 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, but really I would say it's like a 3.25. I thought it was okay, but I didn't like love it like I thought I would, so I guess I was a little disappointed when I actually read it. But I'm going to tell you why I rated it that way. So I am going to go start with the things that I didn't love first, and then end with the things that I did enjoy about these books. So first thing that I really was bothered with the story was the world building. I think it felt a little short for my personal taste. Ravka felt incomplete. And I mean incomplete as in like I didn't really feel like I got to know this place, this setting that the story takes place in. I finished the story feeling like I still didn't really know much about this world. And I know that the author Leigh Bardugo based this world off Russia, and I know that there has been some controversy with that. I know a lot of people have been upset, saying that she appropriated Russian culture when writing this novel because there are a lot of inconsistencies and inaccuracies in this book when, in comparison to like actual Russian culture. And so obviously that's not a great thing. And she has come out and explained her reasoning behind the way she wrote this world, as it was solely based off Russia. And one of her main arguments was that basically this world is not Russia. Obviously these are two different worlds. Russia does not exist in this high fantasy world. But personally, I believe that if you're basing a world solely off of like a singular culture, it's gonna stand out in your novel. And I feel like whether or not your decisions were intentional. I think that the culture should be taken into like serious consideration, and that it should be like respected. And if you are going to like do this, then I think that the things that you write in the story should be accurate. And if you don't, if you want to make changes, then I feel like you should probably just not really base it so heavily on this culture. And there has been some interesting discussion about this on Goodreads too, on like the reviews and stuff. And I found one in particular that I found was just really fascinating. So I can leave a link to that down below. And that's also the review that LEIGH BARDUGO commented on, and she like linked a page to her website explaining her decision behind like the world building of Ravka. But yeah, I wanted to put it out there and bring attention to that because there are some inaccuracies with this world. A most obvious one is Alina, the main character's own name, which is Starkov, and usually in Russian culture, like, names are gendered, so it should really be like Starkova, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not Russian. But yeah, just things like that. But back to the world building in general. Again, I really feel that Ravka felt incomplete. I really would have liked to know more about this world. Especially since this is high fantasy, I want to be immersed into this world. I want to like live in it. I want to forget about the world around me. And when I was reading this, that just didn't happen. I was too aware of the fact that I didn't know much about this world, and not in the normal sense that I'm getting to explore it. It never got to the point where I felt completely immersed. And that's just what I wanted to say in terms of the world building. Another thing that kind of has to relate to the world building, but not having to do with the world itself, is the Grisha. I didn't really come to a point to really understand them. I'm not asking to like completely understand them, especially in the first book, since this is the first book, but I felt like there's so much potential here, especially since it's the first book, like to really explore and like flesh some things out. There are like, 3 main orders of Grisha, and they all have their own subgroups, and I wanted to know at least like what all these groups are capable of, what their powers are. And this was like briefly explored, but not entirely, and I'm still left uncertain like what Grisha does what. And I know this could be reflective of Alina's own knowledge about the Grisha, especially in the beginning of the story when she doesn't really know much about them. After all, she's just an average normal girl. But I feel like, clearly she's going to spend some time amongst the Grisha, and you would expect her and the reader to explore and discover like this whole system of Grisha, and to really just get to know it, or at least begin to. And really, like, I feel like that was missing. I don't know if it's just me. Maybe it gets explored more in the later novels. I am reading the second one, but I'm halfway through it, and it's the same thing. I want to know more about the Grisha. I mean, this is what the trilogy is named after. And she spent so much time amongst Grisha, like, obviously, I want to know more about them. Like, I don't see why she can't tell us. Yeah, and then third main point that I did not love about the story was the romantic subplot. In particular with a certain character. I'm not going to talk about that or say who it is, because obviously I don't want to spoil it. But basically all you need to know was that I think it was very unnecessary and a little weird, and I didn't love it. So there's that. But on to the things that I did like about this story. I did like Alina's character. I thought it was like pretty realistic and relatable. She's awkward, kind of fearful, so not super heroic at all. She doesn't really stand out in the crowd, and she doesn't really try to or like comment. She obviously says that she's pretty regular, but she doesn't like try to live up to that in a super difficult way. She doesn't like try super hard to be average. She just is, and it's so natural, and I just really appreciated that. And I also loved her dynamic with her best friend Mal. I thought they were so cute and snarky and sassy together. Um, and Mal, who is unsurprisingly popular amongst the ladies, was just like a nice character. I really liked him, and I love. He's just like he's I don't know, like down to earth, but also like super fun and just really cool. And I also liked how this book was fast paced. It didn't really have any boring moments, just like sometimes I was a little confused with like the world again because not everything was fleshed out. But there were no boring moments. And then there was this female with female friendship that I really, really enjoyed. I really loved and appreciated because oftentimes females, especially a female who was like, oh, like, physically outstandingly beautiful, will, will receive envy from like other female characters or people. And I like how this female friendship was just like very supportive and very empowering, and I just loved that. And I thought it was a beautiful thing. So, yeah, those are my thoughts on this first book, Shadow and Bone. Um, if you have any comments about anything that I've said, feel free to share your thoughts or opinions. Otherwise than that, I am done sharing what I think about this book. Yeah, and thank you for watching. Have a very good day.